Welcome to This Week in BJJ, the world's first and only live jiu-jitsu show. Brought to you by Zebra Mats, simply Z-Best, Q5 Labs, Stay Alpha, and Defense Soap, defend what you have built. And here's your host, Budo Jake.
It's July 25th, 2014. Welcome to a new episode of This Week in BJJ, and I'm excited about this episode, probably more so than I've ever been, because we have a very special guest today, Rickson Gracie. He's going to come on the show a little bit later. We're going to do an interview, and we'll get to that. But before that, just want to let you know a little bit about what's been going on at Budo headquarters. We've been really busy editing 3 episodes of Rolled Up. We showed the previews to you on the last episode of This Week in BJJ. Also, we've been working on some new instructionals, some new apps, and so we've been very busy. A lot of good things in store for you guys. So now let's get to the new products. I got 3 new products to talk to you guys about today. First up is the Meow Brothers t-shirt. The Meow Brothers are 2 of the hardest working guys in jiu-jitsu, and we have the shirts available for you today. They're available in black and white with 2 different colorways on the logo. The Meow Brothers are working so hard and trying to follow their dreams, and a portion of the proceeds of these shirts go directly to them. So you can feel good that you're supporting some of the hardest working guys in jiu-jitsu, Paulo and Joao Meow. Next up is a new DVD. This is from Tanquinho, and Tanquinho has always impressed me with his incredible balance and, of course, his world-class technique. He is a world champion. He beat Rafa Mendes in the finals of the featherweight division last year. An amazingly talented guy, and I know you're going to learn a lot from his DVD set. Let's take a look at a preview. Last product to talk to you about today. This is from my buddy Dan Lukehart. If you follow the Jiu-Jitsu forums, you might know him as Trumpet Dan. He's done some commentary for us also at the Worlds this year. Usually we don't make instructionals with guys who aren't black belts. Dan is a brown belt, but Dan is a special case. He is very knowledgeable about Jiu-Jitsu. He's taken private lessons from Rickson Gracie. He's a big student of the game. He's always keeping up to date with the latest innovations, and he is a great teacher. He's a teacher by trade. He's also a music teacher, so he knows how to teach, and he's also an active competitor. And on this particular product, you're going to see him teach you all about the closed guard, and he also shows some competition footage of himself using some of the things he's taught in competition. So it's a really good set. I think you're going to like it. It's called The Science of the Closed Guard. Let's take a look at a preview of Dan Lukehart's new app.
In this app, what I'm going to show you is a couple of closed guard techniques. And these closed guard techniques will allow you to navigate the position in kind of a contemporary world. A lot of people think that the closed guard is dead. And a lot of that is due to its difficult nature to achieve a closed guard in high-level competition. These series of techniques will allow you to be very successful.
Thank you for checking out the previews of the 3 new products that we have. And now we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with the one and only Rickson Gracie.
A lot of people think that they can't invert, but for the most part, that's not true. Almost everybody can invert. Learn how to invert, and your guard is going to be much more difficult to pass. Inverting is a huge part of the modern open guard game. It's a big part of De La Riva, Reverse De La Riva, and Tornado Guard. In this section, I want to show you how often inversions are used at the highest level of competition to recover guard. Notice how Cyborg stops Glover's hips from coming forward and rotates underneath to recover guard. Break one grip and invert. Now we're going to make it a little bit more dynamic, as Dane's going to try to pass my guard You're not going to get the hang of it just by watching it once. You're really going to have to practice it. So I'd encourage you to practice these every day. Show up to your academy a little bit early and do some of those solo drills, or grab a partner, do some of the partner drills, and get good at inverting.
Hey guys, welcome back to This Week in BJJ. Today I'm so happy to have the one and only Rickson Gracie here. Rickson, thanks so much for coming on today.
My pleasure, Jake.
I've been a big fan of you for a long time. In fact, I was living in Japan in 2000 when you had your last MMA fight. And I think everybody watching the show knows who you are, but not a lot of people can relate to the fact that in Japan, you were a legend before that, but that fight really cemented it. I remember everybody was talking about it, even guys that had no interest in martial arts, people that never trained in their lives. I would go out to the bar and talk to normal people, and everybody was saying, "Are you going to watch Rickson versus Funaki tonight?" It was such the biggest news, and everybody watched it, and it was such an amazing performance. So just want to thank you for making my life a little bit more exciting. You've always been there. So I know you've been on a long tour this week, being on a lot of shows, talking about a lot of things. I don't want to make you repeat a lot of the old stories from the past. I want to talk more about the present and your mindset this week. But I also want to thank you for saving the best show for last.
Definitely.
So a lot of guys that train with you speak of you in this almost godlike status. And it reminds me of stories that you hear from traditional martial arts, like these guys that were untouchable. The difference is a lot of those guys are dead. You know, they talk about their old founders of whatever martial arts being so amazing. But I want to read a little quote here from Paulo Filho. Paulo was a really good MMA fighter, fought in Pride. And in 2006, he said, "I've trained with the toughest guys formed by Rickson Gracie. They were all great, and I for sure don't want to diminish anybody, but I have to say that no one ever did to me what Rickson Gracie has done during training these last days." And I hear the stories like that from a lot of people. What's so different about you from all these other great jiu-jitsu guys?
First of all, I think we all practice the same. We all commit the same way. We have the same passion. And in the major cases, they all physically have big attributes. They go athletes. And sometimes, by being an athlete, by being tough, you try to resolve the matters by your own physicality, your own toughness, and you never give up, you're tough, you being experienced. So you create somehow your own way to fight. Which is not easy for a weak guy to do. A weak guy, he cannot fight the way he wants. He just can grasp the ideas based on the opportunities he has. And that's the Helio Gracie concept of Jiu-Jitsu. He's not exactly forcing anything. He just makes sure with leverage give you nothing. And as you make one mistake, he dare to catch. So this concept always stick in my mind and always make me felt like whatever power I have, I'm gonna always deal with somebody stronger than me. So in order to me to cope with that and feel comfortable, I have to always try to be precise, technical, and agile in senses of feel what's coming and have the perfect angles and leverage and situations to favor my, so my training was never based on my toughness, my heart, my strength. Even though I'm not as weak, like my father, for example, I'm much stronger than him. Like I know I'm tough. Like I know my potential as a man. I try to reduce this to a minimum and start to exercise this invisible aspect. That's why for me, I feel like a lot of my jiu-jitsu is not visible because in a picture seems the same, but feeling different. And I feel like very comfortable and very seeking for that kind of good feeling in every position and every situation. Sometimes a mount position represents a danger, like a 40% dangerous, but if I mount, I will be able to have a weight distribution differently, an angle, capitalizing in a space, which is gonna feel 90%. Feel like, wow, I never felt like this. Same thing to escape from a position, same thing to weight distribution. So all this has an invisible aspect, which I'm passionate about all my life. And aside of this is my natural ability, is my, a lot of things God gave it to me. I don't know exactly what it is, but, be able to practice with my brothers and eventually play with them all is not something I choose. It's something just happened and I'm blessed and I now try to pass through.
You mentioned a lot of great things there. Let's talk a little bit about your brothers. Who were your favorite training partners growing up?
I mean, when I born, Halls, Helson, and Horion living with me, but they are kind of 8, 9, and 10 years older than me. So as I start to put my head, like, to see what's going on in Jiu-Jitsu, they always have, like, my idols. You know, they all, like, my big brothers, they compete. So at one point, Hollis was the champion of the family. He was my reference for everything I want to be. I follow him, training, get guidance from him, and it's go like this, you know. And that's a process for any student. He's just seeking the master. And so he was my reference. Horion also was my reference in terms of teaching. Horion have a very special teaching ability. He explains very well. He always liked to teach like the older guys in the school, the doctors. So he has a different approach. He was not a competitive, he's not a kind of guy who's pushing your training, but a guy who go define the techniques in a very special way. So I have him as a reference. If I say a best teacher is him, he's a great teacher about the matters, you know. And Halls was like the great athlete, the guy who's just pushing us to the limit and competing and doing and traveling and go with him just to compete somewhere else. So it's the guy who's just like the competitor. So I have those influences, you know, and a very positive influence in my life, aside of my dad, which is already older at the time, and also talking, hear the stories about, you know, what happened in the past, how resilient you had to be, how, I mean, so all this is a build up, you know, for me to get in a position and one point to represent the family. So it's all good.
You had, of course, Elio as an amazing teacher, and you mentioned Horion and Holes. And you had some amazing training partners growing up. But there's a lot of guys now that have great training partners and access to great instructors. Do you see the invisible, what you call the invisible jiu-jitsu, as the big difference between you and other instructors and competitors?
Definitely.
Can that invisible jiu-jitsu be taught?
Yes. Actually, after we're going to have the pleasure to go in the mat, and I give you a grasp of what it is, because it's not difficult, it's just invisible. And once you, because I say invisible because you cannot see, but once you feel it, it's yours. You know, it's about feeling, it's not about seeing and understanding. That's why sometimes when you see Kronos competing, for example, those days, seems like he do everything everybody does, but with him works sharper, work effective. In a way, a lot of those actual super training jiu-jitsu guys cannot do. So what's the difference? How are you going to explain? Oh, he sweeps better, he's longer, he's tough. No, it's just sharpness, precision, better weight distribution, and more sensitivity to how to change, because jiu-jitsu is not, I don't see like a game you play yourself. It's a game you play connected with the other. So if you're pushing and he falling, you keep pushing. But if you push and he resists, you have to immediately change to absorb and take advantage of that energy. So the sensitivity of the changes and the capacity to feel and instead do, that makes all the difference. And that's all depends how your process of learning getting to you, you know? And that's all about the methodology.
There's a lot of jiu-jitsu media available now. It's at an unprecedented pace. There's more. There's apps, there's DVDs, there's online training sites. There's all these resources for people to learn things. But it sounds like what you're saying is that invisible jiu-jitsu can only be taught from person to person.
Yes, or if you give the guidance for him to start to learn how to feel, not how to do. It's completely unapproachable when you try to do a technique of a throwing. If the guy don't give you the energy for you to throw, if he's like moving away, you cannot. So you have to set him up. So the setup is a way you produce the feeling you need. And basically, even if you set up, or even if the guy make a change, you have to obey that the situation. You have to flow in a situation for you to capitalize. So it's not about give it to me, no I don't, no you give it, no. So it becomes a real fight. But I don't want to fight, so give it to me, no, so you let it go and then let the guy fall himself. So it's like understanding how the process works. That's really enhance your ability to execute.
Mm-hmm. Some of the words that you're mentioning right now, connection and energy flow, I've seen seminar clips of you teaching, and you use these words a lot. And it sounds a lot like internal martial arts, like Aikido, like Tai Chi. In fact, you played an Aikido teacher on the Incredible Hulk movie, which is interesting. I know you practiced some yoga before, but where do these ideas of connection and energy come from? Because not a lot of jiu-jitsu guys talk about that.
It's just my self-development of trying to understand, try to create reason for to justify theoretically what I felt like was a need for me, you know? And you cannot fight the force. You have to use the force. So that's a principle, leverage is the element you have to use in order to move something heavier and something awkward. So you put a leverage in the right point, you can roll the rock. If you don't have that kind of angle, I mean, by pushing, you're not going to have it. So developing those weight distribution is crucial. Sometimes you know how much you weigh, you know how much strong you are, but if you don't know how to connect yourself to make the perfect element, you kind of wasting maybe at least half of your potential because the power is not directed, the weight is not exactly there, so the force is not going to compensate the lack of perfect angles. So in all this, coming with a very, it's philosophical, it's practical, it's spiritual, and everything combines. And in the end, you're going to see Jiu-Jitsu is more like a religion, is more like a lifestyle than actually a competition aspect. You have to breed Jiu-Jitsu. You have to, you argue with your wife. You use Jiu-Jitsu somehow. You in the traffic, upset. You have to have the mindset, the control, the strategy, the ways to maximize efficiency, effectiveness. So all this is based on how you fight Jiu-Jitsu in your mind, and the movement. So it's very complex, actually.
Most people talk about jiu-jitsu as something that you have to train with other people. I'm a big believer in breathing and meditation, and your uncle, Master Carlos Sr., spent a lot of time by himself training in his later years, and we've all seen videos of you doing yoga and breathing exercises. How important is solo training for you, and do you think it should be for jiu-jitsu guys?
Oh, I think, the solo training is not about jiu-jitsu. It's not about nothing else but self-knowledge, self-development. Develop your intuition, develop your relax, develop your capability to hyperventilate, develop your emotional control, develop your third vision, develop your internal peace. So all this is crucial for the human being, it's not only for the fighter. If the fighter has this, he's going to be able to capitalize on this, to be more in the zone when the pressure is coming. It's a build-up pressure. If you don't have connected with yourself, you cannot sleep. You cannot get ready of the adrenaline. But if you understand yourself, you can take care of the adrenaline. If you understand, you can focus. You can sleep when you need it. Like I get in a big fight day, I arrive 5 o'clock, I'm going to fight at 9. I arrive 5 o'clock in the venue. I sleep for solid 2 hours, deep. Wake up just for warm up, do this. My heartbeats go for 130. Not now, I'm retired. But at the warm up, I put my heartbeats 130. 5 minutes after the fight, before the fight, I relax. So I'm getting hot as hell with 60 heartbeats a minute, and then I go fight. So when we engage, I'm 60, he's 80, 85, 90. So I'm go full speed, he goes full speed. When I'm 80, he's 100, 110. When I'm 100, he's 130, 140. When 120, he's already looking for breathing because we make the same strength, we sprint the same speed. How he gonna keep the same heartbeat? So he's ahead of me. And the point he needs to regroup is the point I'm gonna have to kill him.
Wise words.
That's happened many times, I guarantee you that.
Wow. We're all learning a lot here. Guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with more Rickson Gracie.
Jiu-Jitsu starts growing and everywhere has a school Jiu-Jitsu. And I see this very positive. The biggest problem of Jiu-Jitsu today is effectiveness. It's a big difference between being effective and be efficient. I don't want to see just sport jiu-jitsu, but the future of jiu-jitsu will be much more effective.